Hey there, AGA members. Chris Garlock here with Michael Redmond. We are back. Our little break took a little longer, but the good news is we made a lot of progress on the AlphaGo book, and we'll have more to report on that front soon. Today, Michael's going to review the 25th game in the AlphaGo versus AlphaGo self-play series. And as always, before we get started, big thanks to all our AGA members who make these videos possible. And if you'd like to help support this content as well, and we hope you do, please consider joining the American Go Association at usgo.org. You all recharge from our, well, I know you were working hard.
I've been really busy, yeah.
And also, one of the things you've been busy with, besides the AlphaGo book, is working on some of these new commentaries. So at 25, we're sort of at the halfway mark now, right?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, if you exclude the 5 games that the Chinese pros got.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
So,
All right.
So let's just get into the game.
Let's.
This one, it's going to be Black playing a very human-looking opening. Really, it's a kind of, it has some ancestry with, I would say it has the Chinese opening in its ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a kind of a similar to the Chinese opening. Let's just look at it. It's a diagonal, so it would be more, maybe more like the mini Chinese. But you can see Black has played Kakari against the 3-4 point.
Okay.
I've marked the board here to make note of the fact that when it was playing Lee Sedol, AlphaGo liked to play the hanging connection, the kaketsu.
Right.
But at this stage, it's like postmaster, I suppose, in its lineage, maybe. But it's playing the solid connection more often. It really seems to like to play the solid connection now. Of course, nowadays, a lot of the computer programs don't even like to play the high kakari to start with. That's this move. They seem to like to prefer to play the low kakari at this point.
Right.
So all of this is sort of dying out. It's such a popular opening. So this is where I'm saying it's sort of looking like the mini Chinese, although it does have a different joseki up there in the upper left. It's a very similar thing that I have seen pros do in the past before AlphaGo, and so it's not unusual for us. So it looks like it still has some of the human stuff in there. Some of human.
Right. And let me get you just to tilt the camera down just a smidge there. We're losing the bottom of you. There we go. A little bit. There we go. Ooh, nice.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. And so we have a shoulder hit. AlphaGo really likes to play the shoulder hits. I have the feeling that Zero didn't do them to the same extent, but this version is still before Zero. It's still the version that has human games to start with. Probably far in its past, but it plays the shoulder hit. But it changes at this point because this is a point where, for instance, the master version, when it played all those human players on the internet, it would always follow this. It would follow it with C, a jump at C. It would follow B with C. But in this series, there was one game where it played at A on this board, so it played a different kakari the other time, and I think it's just a few games earlier in this series. I forget the actual number of the game, but if you look at the SDF file, it's going to be in there. I put it in the SDF file, but there was a game where it played at A. So that's interesting. Very flexible style. It's something a human player would not be thinking of. Like, it's just sort of automatic for us to want to play at C. Or extend, like Gosegan liked to do. And so White jumped into the 3-3 point. This is just normal procedure. But I'm sort of disturbed by this, especially because White has such a solid position in the upper left. I would probably just not want to be playing in that direction altogether, the upper side at all. Right. And so this is obviously Black is going to cover on this side. In this case, it's probably we're pretty sure that Black wants to cover on this side. Actually, with the new joseki that are developing from 3-3 invasions, people are playing the 3-3 invasions so much, and without stones close to that star point on the side, for instance, it's changing the way we play the joseki.
Huh.
And so because of all these new joseki that are coming up, we don't really know which side we want to cover on sometimes
Hmm.
because things get changed around. Why don't
Right.
I just add a variation to show what I'm talking about? Like at this point, this is so far this is still the game sequence,
Right.
but at this point, black played away, which is very natural in this position where the upper side is not so important. But I have marked it to show that moves like A, B, or C are good local moves
Mm-hmm.
that have been played. So let's go back a move and talk about one of the popular joseki that is being played recently. This one, for instance.
Right.
Um, and white covers here. And now black can play a double hane or cut. And actually, cutting is becoming, nowadays, it's become the most popular move if you're just looking at the number of games played. And black squeezes here and gets a very good position towards the upper side. So you can see that in this case, this is completely in the wrong direction for black. Usually white plays a nice move because the right side is going to be white's territory usually, or white's
Uh-huh.
area. In this case, white could play something low like this. But in either case, this would be completely the wrong direction for black in this game. But it shows how the joseki can sort of turn around for black to be controlling the upper side when you would expect at this point that black would be controlling the right side.
Absolutely.
And so the direction of black's play can turn around when we use these modern joseki. And so quite often, if we go back to this point, we don't really know. Sometimes we don't know which side black wants to cover on, because if we end up choosing that joseki, it's going to turn black's wall around.
So, as a professional, competing professional, does that mean that you've really had to go back to the drawing board? I mean, in terms of thinking about this. I mean, well, I mean,
Um,
this is not something that you would have seen anyway. The three threes.
mhm. The three threes. I think we've what my realization has been, what I've come to decide is that the difference between these various variations that we have to choose between is very slight.
Uh huh.
Um, and it doesn't really, um, to put it very, exaggerate just a little bit, it doesn't make much difference because we found out that we make worse mistakes later in the game. And we have the computer analysis to tell us where our
Right.
mistakes are. So
Right.
we're finding that like in the modern computers um, programs, they're so confident with their assessment of the position that they very quickly go up to the 90 percentage of winning percentage.
Right.
And so you can go up to something like 98% winning percentage, and it's still a position that is not so clear to a human player,
Right.
even a top pro. And so it's really, and so that it's after that we start making the game losing mistakes most of the time. And we're
Okay.
finding that as we analyze our own games. And so it doesn't really matter. And the fact that we've with the help of these computers, we've invented those new joseki that turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
We have the option in many cases to cover on one side or the other. It doesn't really matter so much. But this is a case where I'm pretty sure that black wants to cover on this side, just because
Right.
at this point black really wants just to leave it and give the upper side to white.
Yep.
So black, I agree with black playing away. Um, and black controls the right side. This is working well. It's working well with this kakari that black played. Let's mark the kakari just so you know. This kakari here, the approach move here, working. Everything is working well for black locally, so it seems okay. Actually, the game move white plays away again. But this is always a variation you have to be careful of when black plays away in the middle of this joseki, because it's going to start a big fight. So
Yeah.
black has to be careful of this one. You have to be ready for it. If you're going to play this joseki and leave the position to play the right side is preferable at this point, then you have to
Mm-hmm.
be aware of the fact that white might just come and cut you.
Sure.
So I made a variation to show that. White usually crawls once first. We're going to see in the next game, I think, 26 variation where white doesn't actually do that. But usually white's going to crawl here, black extends, white extends. And it turns out with this stone in the middle of the right side, black is not going to be in much trouble. So black can play a Hana here and jump into the center. And we've seen this in a lot of AlphaGo games, actually. We've seen it in some of the AlphaGo self-played games. And white can play here. At this point, black has a number of options, but the strongest move is to play this hanging connection.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's only possible because black has this stone on the side. It's only possible because of this.
Okay, okay.
Otherwise, black would. Let's just do a variation just for the video.
Oh, and let's get. And I want to get that camera down because we're losing your part of your.
Okay, yeah, I'm scrunching down a bit, I guess.
You're zooming in on the game, which is what we want.
I'll give you a safe variation for black that works in just about any case. So this one would be a safe variation. Black plays the attachment here.
I wondered about that.
And this is really vulgar, but black plays a double attachment. White pushes through, and at this point, black's in danger, but he can play the hanging connection here. So white's going to get a nice shape on the outside, but it's really big that black gets this in the corner. Actually, white can avoid that. White can avoid that by playing once here. White should probably play once here, and gets the get on the outside. But of course, this Hane here is a very a strong move also because white cannot cover on the second line. And also, there's the fact that this is still sort of sente. It's going to be the corner is going to be a ko. So this is sort of troublesome for white. It's not as good as you might think. So this is the safe way for black to play. And to go back, let's see, go back to the original position. Oh, sorry, that's not the original position. We're getting ahead of ourselves into the game. So at this point, if white does this, I'm just going to show you the strongest variation that works when black has the extra stone on the side now. Black can play here, and white might try to punish that with this, but the point is this Hane is really big,
right?
And then black can push through and cut here.
Not
so beautiful, but white's not going to be able to save these 3 stones.
Nice.
And so it ends up with a kind of a trade like this. And white needs to crawl here because that would have been a forcing move for black. And black can just throw away a few stones on the side.
Okay.
The right side is such a success for black. It's such a good shape that black can afford to throw away some of those stones.
Every time I try and do this, I try to save everything, and I always wind up just feeling so bad because you get really busy, and it doesn't usually work anyway.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. This is just one of the many variations. Sometimes, like this is black was throwing those stones away because white had such a strong position on the upper left here. This white group is so strong. Black didn't want to get into any big fights in the local area. If black had stones in that direction, maybe black would be playing more strongly there. So there's a lot of variation to what could happen. But my verdict in this game is that it's not important enough. The upper side is not important enough for white to be playing that way. And you could see it gave black a great position on the right side.
Yeah.
So white played here, and black played here. You would usually expect white to be playing a move on the right side. Maybe black would play something like this. Black is still threatening to cover at A, which would isolate the corner and start to set up an attack on white's lower side.
Right.
So I sort of like this for black. It's probably an almost even game, but I would be a lot happier playing with the black stones. So this is where AlphaGo as white starts to play something that is very sort of vintage AlphaGo. It's very, very much like what we were seeing in the internet games played against humans. It's going to go crazy here inside black's moyo, playing an attachment. And this really starts a very interesting, exciting fight.
Yeah, it really does. I took a look at this. Things get pretty. I have questions because I lost track of what the heck was going on. There's a fun code that comes up in a little while.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is a point when your opponent attaches against your stone like this, you generally have 4 options. So for weaker players, it's really important to know that you have 4 options, and 2 of them are just extending one direction or the other.
Sure.
And these are relatively submissive moves. They're weaker moves. You don't really want to play them when you have a lot of stones in the area and you think you can attack. So when you can attack, you're going to play a Hane. So it's going to be either this one or this one. One of these two moves would be an attacking move.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of typically normal that black would play a Hane from the wider side. So this is making a lot of sense. And white Hane's here. This is the only shape move that white has. And there's another kind of a basic rule that is true more often than not, is that you don't want to be cutting these stones because it's going to give white sabaki. It's going to give white shape. So I did this variation to show that. This would be black grabbing the one white stone, but in this case, the ladder favors white, so this would be bad. It's just bad. Having a bad ladder is bad for black. But there's a number of ways this could go wrong, so it's usually not a good idea to cut here when your opponent does this kind of stuff. So black just simply connects. White hanging connection. Black is going to split white into two groups. It makes a lot of sense. Very logical play by black. Like I would be almost always happy with the black stones at this point, but we're going to see it turn around here. So the game move is sort of it's already unusual. It's a bit weird. The move that would be sort of the shape move is this one, but this one is not going to be very good for white. So that would be a reason that AlphaGo didn't choose it, because black's going to extend here and push here. This is kind of a textbook example of a splitting attack,
right?
Where black is pushing against white on the lower side, and black doesn't mind if white gets territory there, because at the point white played this jump on the fourth line, this stone here, and white's already sort of okay there. So black doesn't mind making it stronger. And the point is that black's going to get this big attack against white in the center. I would be a lot happier playing with black in this game.
Oh yeah, I don't like white. That's a heavy burden.
So an example for what black should not do. I did make some relatively simple examples in this game. So this is one of them where black is just going after the one stone. I think a low-down player would sort of want to do that, but it just allows white to connect up on the outside, and it's no good. Even though black can cut later at this point. The ladder favors black, but it's not going to be very successful attack after white is connected up like this. So black extends, and already at this point, black is going for the kill. So this is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So white extends here, white pushes out, and black just goes ahead and tries to kill it. So this is gonna be very, very exciting, because it's dangerous for both sides. And this attachment in itself is it looks sort of normal. Like if white was just gonna pull back on the third line at this point, it would be a very normal looking move.
Sure.
But so in itself, it's not unusual, but it's gonna link up to something that happens on the left side. So it's gonna be really, really tricky move. It's sort of sneaky. So white extends here.
Yeah, this is a fun sequence.
And it's going to be a geta. For instance, let's just add a simple geta variation, a net, where white captures the three black stones.
Right.
So black has to fill the liberty here. We can see it's looking a bit uncomfortable for black.
Nice shape for black, right?
Yeah. It's a big blob there. And also white has some potential in the center.
Can I just say, when I looked at this earlier, I thought black had such a nice position, and right about now I was like, black has all these clumpy shapes all of a sudden.
Yeah, all over the place. Well, the white has the potential for this Hane in the center.
Yeah.
It looks really good for white.
It does.
Of course, white has to succeed in punishing black's bad shape on the left side.
Right.
We're going to see white doing that too. For instance, this is the intuitive move. And it's not going to be good, because black just slides here. And this turns out to be pretty easy for black, because white can try to cut black off, but it's not going to work. It's just not working. At this point, black is, of course, the three stones on the edge are not important. And the point here is that black's group here is more or less alive, and it means that these stones, they're not getting any extra aji. They're just going to be dead. And of course, that means that there's not much good stuff happening for these stones either. And so it's this profit that white got on side is not important. And I'm going to have to remember where that variation is, because I'm going to show it in comparison to what white was actually doing in the game. So white jumped in here.
Right.
And this is a point where I want to say, I shouldn't say you, at least I want to say that black could probably connect up with this move.
Uh-huh.
And so this is going to be compared.
I'd like to think that I could, but I'm
Yeah.
not.
So I'm going to compare this with the variation we were just doing, because it's very similar with one very important difference. So black can attach and cross-cut here.
Right.
White gets to play an Atari. This is really painful. This is the painful part for black. This Atari here. White bumps against black. This is the only way white can play here. You would hope for white to have something stronger, but for instance, if white plays here, this is just not good, because black can allow white to capture the one stone.
Sure.
And there's no profit there for white. So white bumps against black, and black has to connect on the top. So we get to this shape. And at this point, I'm going to compare it with this variation, where black has captured two stones and has an eye shape here. This other position, at this point, you can see that black doesn't have any eyes on the side here. This, you're not seeing it maybe. This position here, with white playing the Hane underneath.
Yeah.
See, white has taken away black's eyes.
Right, but the white.
And so just to go a bit further into the variation, white's going to throw away the 4 stones too. White's just throwing away everything. And then white's going to, well, I say white's going to. That's what I would do with white, at least. White's just sort of given up everything. But C is still going to be a headache for black. Because not only does black not have eyes, if white plays at C next, black's in a kind of a Damezmari position also. You can see that. Let's just add some moves. Let's give it.
Yeah, I'm not quite seeing it.
You can see that black already has a lack of liberties. Like,
sure.
If we have black playing on this side, white's already squeezing. Sorry, I shouldn't do it that side. White's already squeezing black.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's
so black has to deal with that, and also the fact that when white does that, black might be covering. White can be playing here. White still has a Hane on the first line. This is still going to be forcing. And you can see white's going to die. But if we combine that with the possibility of white escaping out in the center, this black group actually only has about 6 moves left, 6 or 7 moves. It means that there's a potential squeeze there. And I'm just saying this is Aji, because for the time being, even those white stones in the center are not going to escape so easily. But white does have this forcing peep here.
Yes,
so any move, for instance, a move around the point where I've just marked, any move in the vicinity is going to be threatening something like this that could happen very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the point is that it's a very, oh, sorry, I better get back to the game. It's a very different position than the other one, where white plays here, and black gets an eye shape while black is doing that. You can see in this position, the white Hane there. The white Hane here has no effect on black at all. So that's the big difference there.
So the eye, having the eye makes a huge difference.
It's a huge difference. Not only does it give black an extra eye, and of course 2 eyes if black plays first on the side.
Sure.
It also gives black a lot of extra liberties. It means that this mark point will not be a forcing move for white.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Thank you.
So it's a lot of extra security that black has there, which would make the difference between a complicated, difficult game and an easy win for black. So this intuitional move, which seems just the natural shape,
sure,
is
absolutely.
not. And part of that is the fact that white is sort of planning on sacrificing these 4 stones. There's a lot of variations in which white will be happy to sacrifice the 4 stones. So there's no reason that white has to be connecting to those stones when white plays this move. So that's part of what this move is too.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in the game, white doesn't sacrifice those 4 stones, but and then white does afterwards. And it's just so it doesn't go in a straight road, but yeah.
No, it's not a straight road. It's not even close to being a straight road.
So this move, we found out that this move doesn't work out. So black jumps out.
Yeah.
And white gets to push through here. So the idea here is that black is sort of offering up the 3 stones on the upper left, in the upper left, and trying to get something in the center. So that's sort of what white is aiming at
Just
also
a
in this
just a
variation.
small question of technique. The extending for black there off of the, again with the one, how many empty triangles are there? A couple of empty
The
triangles.
empty triangle, you're talking about this move when white plays the
I think
Wanek?
some people would be inclined to try and take an Atari to get out of there. Maybe a little.
Well, it does slightly improve black's shape, but white still can squeeze black from this side, and still playing the Hane would be bad. It would probably be bad when white cuts. Just
Right.
saying that off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So if you end up black getting pushed around like this again, and white might play a slightly different order of moves, but something like this. This is what white is heading to, and you can see that this exchange here with the cut here, it's taken away a lot of the risks that white had. It's
Right.
really fixed up white's shape a lot.
Right.
So it's something that black would not rather do in the game when black plays here. The point is that at some point, white's going to be going back to fix the shape with this move. And at that point, black would usually not want to play this one, but
Right.
would probably prefer to play something like this to have better shape in the center.
A little faster.
Yeah, so the Atari system is usually quite often a bad idea. It's something that people laugh at you usually, and quite often they're right. So usually it's simpler just to play straight out and
Right.
leave the cutting point here for white to fix on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So white pushes once more, and you can see white is sort of trying to throw away the 4 stones at this point. Okay, so I added a variation here to show that black, although black might want to save the 3 stones, and you were saying earlier that you like to try to save everything, so we'll try that here.
I didn't say I like to. I've been
You
trying
get
to.
into it,
I'm trying.
yeah.
I'm trying to be, sort of
Mm.
Buddhist about it and do. But I just find myself unable to. I don't. I really don't like it.
So this is an example of black trying to save those stones,
Yeah,
and
it
why
just
it
feels
doesn't work.
terrible. Terrible.
Well, actually, black can probably save them, but the problem is that black is going to have a lot of trouble when white moves out with the stones
Right.
at B,
The
because
really the strong players let me save them, and then I'm like,
Mhm. It gets
they don't,
worse.
it gets worse.
Yeah, because you can see black is still has a very small exit route there.
Right.
Black would probably be moving out something like this. So white's going
Right.
to push black around there, and when white plays something like this later,
Uh.
the left side is going to be turning into a semi again if black's
Oh
not
no,
careful,
it's so bad.
and white has potential to squeeze from the center. So it's actually very complicated. It would be pretty hard for. It's not simple for white to execute either.
Right. Right. It's complicated.
But it's probably going to be bad for black. More likely bad for black than bad for white.
Exciting, but bad.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So black is offering to sacrifice 3 stones. So
The upper left. Yeah.
upper left, he's offering to sacrifice them. So let's see what happens if white takes the offer. It would be a lot simpler. White would get a nice territory there.
Mm-hmm.
But black would get the initiative. Black would get a tempo to attack on the lower side. And we can see here how white has such a lousy shape on the lower side. White's falling apart on
Yeah.
the lower side.
Yeah. It's
So
terrible.
that's what I was talking about when black played this move.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fact that white's shape on the lower side is far from
Oh.
finished.
Right.
So white didn't do that. So this is where that attachment that I was talking about earlier, this move here, where it comes into play. Because this is what white was setting up. It's the whole reason for that marked attachment move. Obviously, black's not going to back off, so black plays an Atari underneath here.
Yeah.
And then white plays here. So what's this all about?
Yeah.
I had a lot of
That's
fun trying to explain that.
top of my list.
Yeah. So at this point, this is still the game variation.
Yep. Yep.
This is still the actual game. So the question is, it looks like white's in a lot of trouble here. So what happens if black plays the strongest move here? This is the question I tried to answer, and I found a connection to this move here in the corner. So this is the variation where that sort of worked out for me. It's the only way I could make it connect up.
Okay.
So white has to answer this. And black at this point has to hurry back to the left side to win the semi.
Right.
White's not going to make it easy. White runs out once in the center. We can see that black's center stones are in danger. Like if black plays something else, white can always start pushing here. And black might win the semi, but white's going to squeeze. White's going to get a nice squeeze here. Just for an example there. That was a bad move for black, but anyway. So black's going to play out in the center. And white's going to start making trouble in the corner here. And this is not alive. Black can kill it with this move because of the wedge waiting to happen next. So white has to connect here. Otherwise, black would take that point, and black can extend to kill the white group. White slides. And so the whole point of this variation for the start is that this slide is super important. Sliding here on the second line, it looks like an endgame move, but actually it makes the difference between a fight to capture that's going to be tough for white and a fight to capture that's going to be easy for white. And I'm talking about the fight to capture on this side when white goes after the 3 stones. So this slide here on the second line is going to make a big difference when white goes after those 3 black stones later.
Wow.
So that's like it's one free move that white is getting here, which makes this a good thing for white. Black is going to throw in here.
Right.
Obviously, this is going to fill some white liberties, an extra white liberty. And okay, just to put a sub variation, I didn't add any sub variations to the file, but we're going to have black make a mistake here. Usually, you would just simply fill a liberty. We're going to assume that black's not going to give up those 4 stones. It would be too much. This going straight down on the first line there, combined with the attempt to connect, it's going to fill black's liberties. So this is a kind of you can see white's winning by 1 move here.
Yes.
It was all this key point that white took on the first line.
Wow.
This first line here is a very important point there.
Nice.
So that's what's happening with black playing this move. This is a key point that black has to take. Now, if we say that white is going to avoid a ko or anything, let's do it a bit more easily. Let's have white play the push through here. Let's say white's going to avoid a ko and everything. You can see that white has 4 liberties, black has 4 liberties. And it's black's turn. Black's going to win by 1 move.
Right.
Some of these are simple, you just have to count the number of liberties.
Yeah, simple.
But the problem is that white can play here once, and it's going to be a ko. And so I have white winning the semi in the upper left. White wins this race to capture, mostly because white got this slide in, but also white has the squeeze starting from C. And you can see that squeeze is going to be a ko also. Let's just spell it out. So if white plays here, black plays here, white can play here. This is a 1-step ko, because while black just has to win this ko here, for instance, something like this, black just has to win and connect the ko. But when black plays away, white cannot connect the ko. So white has to fill an upper liberty, and then it's going to be a direct ko.
Right.
So that's why white quits the ko at this point. The moment black makes it a ko. Otherwise, like if black played away, white could have played this way, and then white would be winning the semi.
Right.
And so so the moment black gets an advantage here, I'm losing myself in the variations, but the moment black gets that advantage of a 1-step ending, 1-step ko, white's going to play on the outside, win the semi in the upper left. You can see that's a lot of white territory, and there's this pending ko that's a headache for black. Like there's no way that black can resolve this position with 1 move, because black has to play. Let's see. Black has to play here, here, and then connect to fit completely. Oh, well, actually, black could. Sorry about that. Black has to fill a liberty, then it's going to be okay. But still, it's a liability for black. I was lying to you there for a moment, but black does have to add 1 move.
You were testing me.
Yeah. Let's just say that. Yeah. So it's a liability for black, and white's okay on the outside too. So this would be bad. So that sort of explains, I hope, what white was doing with that marked stone in the corner. It has to do with this strongest variation that black black chose
Okay.
not to play. Chose not to play
Okay.
this one. So that's my
Just
attempt at
just
explaining what was
I'm
happening there.
just out of curiosity. It was probably a while ago, so you may not remember. But do you remember how long it took you to work that out?
It was super difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
All
don't
right.
remember how long.
That's okay.
It was like I knew that I had to find a way to justify this attachment to the 3 point.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
And there was no way that I could I was having a lot of difficulty trying to make a living shape for white in the corner
Uh
and
huh.
making it work because, for instance, uh, locally for white to play this move, it's a huge investment. It's losing a lot on the outside.
Right.
So white has just living in the corner might not be good enough. There's a lot of variations where it would be a disaster even if white lives in the corner.
Uh huh.
So white has to really get some success out of it to make it work. And so I had a lot of trouble finding the right variation for that. And it has to be this one where black is playing strongly on the outside.
All right. Well, very cool. Thank you.
So black had to back off. White did play covering once, and there's still some Maji stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's some Maji with the marked stone in this case also, although it's
Yep.
not so serious. Um, and so white extends, and at this point, white hasn't really captured the 3 black stones, and we're going to see how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
White hasn't captured them yet, but for the time being, the outside is more important. So I have this fight where black extends here. This is the exciting fight.
Mm-hmm.
White's going to crawl once, and this is where the one stone in the corner comes into play, because if black plays here, white can play here and cut, so that would be bad for black.
Nice.
So that's why I have black playing here, and then white. That means white got an extra liberty there, and the squeeze works, which means that black doesn't have to cut at A anymore. White's going to win the semi.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to the game, black covered here. So black was stopping that and filling a
Mm-hmm.
liberty. Now white only has 3 liberties. So it's like black is winning by 2 liberties on the left
Right.
side. White has no forcing move. And you can see that every time I'm assuming that black will be saving these 4 stones, because that's sort of mandatory for black to be saving these 4 stones. So black has about 5 liberties left, and white has only 3. So there's no forcing moves for white locally there. Black's center group, it still has only 3 liberties. So this would be the group that white would be trying to squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
But that group, it's since white has a cutting point, it's okay for the time being. So black didn't do that, but covered a liberty. So it's a very reasonable move. White gets to play on the outside here. Still, the 3 black stones are not killed, but black is continuing playing in the center. White gets to play this move, and white gets a position on the lower side. So this whole trade, the left side was sort of looking like a black moyo to start with.
Mm-hmm.
It's now black's territory, and you can see that the black group in the center, it has 6 liberties now. This group in the center, so it has 6 liberties. So for a while, that's not going to be a problem for black. White has only 3.
Sure.
So there's no way for white to use the group at A at this point. We're going to see it come back into use at the end of the game. White,
Right.
recycles it. Black has a move at B. If black plays at B, white will not be able to continue trying to capture those black stones. So if black plays at B, white would be connecting the 3 stones, and black would be able to crawl. Or white could cover on the second line, but black would win the semi. White would get a squeeze. So one or the other. But instead, black plays here,
I love that move. That is such a cool move.
threatening to come at A. So
Mm-hmm.
that's it's about the same size as saving the 3 stones in the upper left, but it's more into the future of the game, you might say, the open area. So with this move, white is not affecting the black group at all, the living black group, but white has captured the 3 stones now.
Right.
So that's a huge move as far as territory is concerned. And so black plays here. This is actually a ladder breaking move at A. So white has to
Ah,
add a stone there.
okay.
Um, and then black covers here.
Yes.
So it looks
Nice.
like white's sort of in trouble here. And this is where the game gets really hard to understand. Um, and there's actually I haven't completely explained what's happening here because it's really weird. And I think the point is that there's a lot of variations that are probably more or less equal as far as AlphaGo is concerned. And so it's not choosing the ones that I would choose. But I'm having trouble deciding how much of a difference is there.
Huh.
I would say that my variations might be as good as AlphaGo's variations, um, but there must be some very fine difference that I'm not really getting. So white plays here, and black doesn't push through. Like this is a good Suji move, but why not just push through here anyway? So I tried
Yeah.
to answer that question. Um, this is working for black. Black gets the squeeze here to cut white off. And white doesn't have any co-threats for this call. So white's probably going to play something like this. Um, white will be able to live on the side. Like we could assume, for instance, we could assume something like this. And white, it's really hard to decide where to add the stone. Maybe let's have white play here, for instance. White's not going to die.
No,
Um,
but he gets no points.
he gets no points. I think the idea is that white has gotten some extra stones on the outside.
Uh-huh.
Oops.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm talking about these stones here. These stones on the outside
Yeah, yeah.
are
Yeah.
reducing black's territory in the order area and also strengthening the white corner group. So I think that's what the idea is here.
Mm.
And it does look like a fairly more or less even position as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
At this point of the game, AlphaGo is probably already deciding who's going to win, but
Right.
it looks pretty even to me. So black plays here.
Well, and
Um,
you have a pretty good feel too. I mean, not who's winning,
yeah,
but who's the position.
the position is close enough for me. I'd
Yeah,
be okay playing either side.
sure.
And as far as this move, when white plays this attachment against black's knight's move,
Uh-huh.
there's a kind of a general rule that is it's good suji, it's good shape not to be pushing through at A for black.
Okay.
So quite often when white's attachment here is a move that's going to work, quite often the good reply for black is not to push through at A. And so it's a kind of a good suji, a good shape move that black has played
Mm-hmm.
here. Although, as you can see, I had trouble refuting this move also. So
Mm.
I think this is a point where black could have played both moves.
Hmm.
Maybe it'd be interesting to see um, what values AlphaGo was giving to
Yeah.
these moves, but
Yeah.
we don't have access to that, of course. So and now white cuts here anyway. This is definitely a very sharp move. It's a good move. And black plays here. This is really weird. But this is actually another move that is actually working. It's good shape again. Um, Playing like this would be lame shape on the lower side. It would be bad shape for white for the connection here. Let's just mark the stones I'm talking about. The connection between these stones is still a little bit weak, and it would be giving white options later to be forcing with moves like this, threatening to connect underneath.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, this kind of thing would be connecting underneath. And so that connection there um, needs an extra black stone to be complete. So I really like this move, although I couldn't find enough variations to completely convince myself that it was the only move black could play. So this is another
Hmm.
position where I'm not sure that's the only move, but it's a really neat move and it's good shape. And of course, the point is that when white plays here, black can squeeze like this. And just because black's group in the center has such an excess of liberties, like this group here, it still has 6 liberties. It means that
Yep.
black's not in danger of being squeezed there. White has only 3 liberties on the left. So the fact that black doesn't have to worry at all about that group, and it's actually not part of the wall that's going to be surrounding the right side if black gets a right side territory. It means that black can be sort of flexible and allow white out in the center there.
Hmm.
And the result is that black did get a nice shape towards the lower right corner here. And so it's working. The way AlphaGo played is actually working here, although it's some of the moves there came as surprises for me. It's actually working in the actual play. So
Right.
it was really something I learned something from. It's very interesting. And those two moves there, like this one, um, especially this move is really a very good shape move. It's
It's
something
a
that you can. It's worth remembering.
it's a beautiful move.
Yeah.
I agree. When you first see it, it looks so odd, but it
Hmm.
actually is just
Hmm.
gorgeous.
And so white protects the corner. This is a
Yeah.
position where there's so many black stones in the area. White has to be very, very defensive here. White has to play on the second line to defend this corner. And the white group on the lower side is okay now because white can move out at A or can play at B, which would give white eyes.
Hmm.
So black pushes through here. Obviously, you would think white is going to cover, right? So this is
I
another point where I was sort of surprised to see white play on this side, but this is a good move actually.
hmm.
So if white covers here, black is the local move for black is to play here. And if white, let's just do an extra variation. If white plays this way, this is starting to look really bad for white because white has bad shape here.
Ay, ay, ay.
And you can see even if white captures that one black stone, it's going to be a false eye.
Right, right.
If white continues, here, now black's just going to play this way. White's still far from getting two eyes. So it's white can make a lot of sort of false eyes, and it takes a long time for white to get two eyes. We can
Yeah,
see
that's
um,
ugly.
the corner is getting into trouble here, and so it's bad on both sides. Actually, black might be playing this move straight down. That might be even worse for the corner
Nice.
when black follows up with something like this. Um, and so it's actually good for white not to be covering there. So just to go back to that variation, at this point, white's probably going to be playing here, and black can play here. Again, white has to add a stone. There's a weak point at C that black has created by this exchange of A for B. For instance, if white plays here, black's just going to play here, and it's an eyeless shape
Yep.
locally. Whereas if black had not played that, if black had played here immediately, now white's not going to answer that way. White could pull back, for instance, and now white has pretty good eye shape. White has
Hmm.
probably one eye with sente, one eye with a tempo on the lower side. So that's a big difference there. And so that's the reason black pushes through, and the reason that white doesn't answer it directly. And again, just because it's so easy to forget, but just because this black group has so many extra liberties in its fight to capture against the white, the race to capture there on the left side, these two stones for white, just to mark the two white stones, they're not cutting stones anymore. They're not
Right.
important. So that's why white's so happy to throw them away. And so you can see at this point, white already has an eye here, and it's white's turn. So white has the one eye there that black cannot take away. And white continues by moving out into the center. And now this move, yeah. Well, this partly it has to do with the ladder, the stone here that white has captured in a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So black has some extra forcing moves there, and also the bad odds on the left side combined with the cut here
Right.
could get to be trouble. So white has to be careful with this. Makes sense that white just extended very simply, and black gets to connect up to the right side. Again, there is an issue with the ladder there that sort of reduces white's options. So white just extended and left it. And this Hanesugi here is really big,
How
partly
big?
because
How big? How many points roughly?
let's see, that's really hard to say. It's really big just because it creates the clamp at A. Rather than points, it's worth an extra move just
I see.
basically just because
I
of
see.
that. There's also the fact that if white plays away, let's just give a diagram with white playing away, just any random point. Maybe it would be better for white to play here. When black plays this move, um, and then let's see, then plays again like this and squeezes white like this. you can see that's reinforcing black on the upper side too. So that's going to make a potential extra move where white has lost this forcing move towards the center. So that's an extra move for black towards the center too.
Gotcha.
So it's almost like it's almost a double sente. Only black doesn't
Yeah.
answer it. Yeah, black doesn't answer it, but it's sort of like a double sente because clamping at A, if we're talking about endgame moves, that's the biggest move on the board.
Right.
But black doesn't want to play an endgame. So black plays here, threatening the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then black doesn't follow through with it. This is really, this is where I have to figure out why, you know?
The timing, the sequencing on this whole piece here was just fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, black has this big move in the corner. Black could play here.
Yeah.
And it's really mystifying why black doesn't do it. And I think the confusion I have here, understanding the variations, the way AlphaGo played, is probably caused by the AlphaGo's assessment of the position. Because partly judging from the way that black sort of crashed later in the game.
That's right.
And the fact that my assessment has it good for white at this point.
Really?
And I think those combined mean that black is probably behind whatever it does.
Mm-hmm.
And so black has a lot of options of losing positions. And when that happens, AlphaGo and the other AIs also does not make the same choices that a human would make. A human pro tries to catch up in territory.
Right.
And generally plays what I would call the best moves. And tries to catch up in territory and ends up with a losing game if the opponent doesn't make any mistakes, ends up with a losing game, which is relatively close, but it's usually not good enough to win.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategy here for humans is that we know that humans make mistakes.
Right, I was just going to ask that,
and
yeah.
So we're counting on the fact that our opponent is going to make a mistake somewhere. And so we catch up in territory. Sometimes we try to make things undefined as possible. Hard to, if the position becomes simplified or defined, then it becomes less likely for a human to make a mistake or an important mistake. Like if we get to the final stages of the end game, top pros might make a mistake that loses 1 point, or maybe at the most 2 points, but nothing more than that.
To just be clear, I mean, you're not talking necessarily, although certainly in amateur games this could happen,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not talking necessarily about a blunder, but you're talking about something that would lose maybe a few points, and that could be the key.
A slack move, yeah. And just a couple of points would in many cases, it would be enough.
Right.
And so the human pro would be aiming for that kind of reversal scenario.
Where the boxing.
Just winning on points.
In boxing, I think it'd be called the rope-a-dope strategy. You just sort of hang in there and
Mm-hmm.
wait for an opportunity.
But I'm not waiting for a knockout punch and go, but just to gain a point or so. And like if the opponent gets flustered or something, even a pro could make a number of these small mistakes, which could add up. So the professional would be definitely, the human professional would be playing this attack in the lower right to gain points and give white an opportunity to make a mistake.
Right.
And to get to a closer game, or at least the closest version of this game that black can achieve, as far as territory is concerned. And just to forget about all that uncertainty that could happen in the upper right, because when white tries to punish black, maybe with a cut in the upper right, for instance, black might be worried about this kind of cut.
Right.
So that might be part of what AlphaGo is doing in the game. But like a human player, knowing that black is in trouble anyway would be welcoming that. And whatever happens. In any case, for the time being, white's going to be busy with the lower right corner anyway. And so that's my explanation of how I had trouble understanding AlphaGo's moves here, because I think that it's just the fact that it doesn't care whether it's a half point difference or a 100-point difference, as
Right.
the AlphaGo team was saying, right?
Right.
So this is what I think will happen in the lower right corner. Black can live because there's that cut on the fourth line. White has to go back, but of course white can live too. And so it's not a decisive gain for black actually in this variation. There's a number of variations that could happen. I couldn't find any way for black to kill white. So it's okay for white. Actually, black's right side territory is decreased a little bit in this variation.
Hmm.
So it's okay for white.
Wow.
So it's not as if this would be a knockout blow, but I would definitely want to play that move. So black plays on the outside. And you can see white got that extension there, this extension. And it doesn't hurt the corner at all. This corner is still 10 points of territory. And then white protected. So it's really interesting how white left that for a few moves and then decided to protect after all. Black gets to close white in here. That's a big move. And there's the question of white's eyes. White has an eye at A. And white, where's white's second eye? You know, it's not clear, is it?
Not
It's
clear.
not clear. It's not clear. But AlphaGo doesn't mind. And so later on, I'm going to try showing you some variations where black tries to kill it. For the time being, black played once here, played once here. And actually what these moves are doing is black is trying to set up a kill, believe it or not. In the upper left here, black is trying to create some extra aji so that black can kill the white group.
Lisa says hi, and she's brought me some kava. So next
Very
time you're
good.
here, you'll have some.
Fine, thank you. Okay, so where are we? Yeah. So black played once there. It's going to come into the equation later. And white answered here. So this is the point where I chose to add a variation showing black trying to kill white. Black has played this move, and white has answered here. So locally, black has played the first move in this local position, trying to take away white's eyes.
Right.
But black stopped doing that. So why did black stop doing that? Black can continue here and here. White has only one eye.
Mm.
Usually one eye is dead, right?
Last I checked.
Yeah. So white doesn't have an eye in the center either. Black can make that a full eye.
I would
white
just be
tries to
dead. Yeah. This is not looking good.
Okay. Gradually, the liberties of black stones in the center have been reduced, like these stones here. They still have 4 liberties, so black's still winning by 1 liberty.
Right.
So black's going to continue attacking.
Oh,
White still has, okay.
I see this.
See it
Yeah.
coming, right? Yeah.
I
So
do.
So we have a dead black group.
Oh, that is too cool.
So this is going to be a partial explanation of actually what happens in the game, because now black does this and black does this. So black's trying to create an extra black stone there. Just needs 1 extra black stone in the area to set up to kill white in the center. So if white plays here, black's going to push here, forcing move locally. And now black's going to go after the white group. I'm showing a different way for white to play in the center here.
I see. Yeah. I see this. Right.
So these 2 black stones, I'll mark them. These 2 black stones are going to make the difference here.
They help the black group.
And here in the center, I'm showing a different way for white to play, just to show how it doesn't work either. And white ends up with a dead shape anyway. And so now black is just going to pull back here.
Nice.
And it's just dead. Dead. There's no way black can live. And so that's the explanation there. White is dead. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. That is really cool.
So white played away. Now it's alive, because if black plays at A, then white will have a potential eye at C. So C and D would become mi.
Yeah, right.
And so black played again in the center. So now these white stones have been sacrificed again, these white stones in the center. Just to be sure, I'm talking about these stones.
Yeah. No,
so white started out wanting to sacrifice the 4 stones here, if you recall.
Yeah.
And it didn't turn out that they died. So they came back to life. Now white sacrificed them again. Of course, they come back to life in the end of the game.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Was raising the question of whether they were really sacrificed. It's a temporary sacrifice.
It's a temporary sacrifice, yeah. So so the end game has started, but this is a huge move. So actually, White is getting a lot of compensation here by wrecking the right side with this move that White played. Black has to do something to settle. Oh, well, it didn't, but the black group in the lower right is going to get pushed around a little bit here. So this is the problem move here. Black has to be careful how it answers this move. And the game, it wasn't careful, and that sort of signifies that it was losing anyway, I think.
Right.
So black covers here. Black has to extend. Let's just add one more simple variation. This is an easy win for White. Black has 3 liberties and White has 5. So that's an easy win. So black extends. So this is a point where the safe move would be to play here. And there would be no problem. White would continue with this, which pushes black around a little bit. And White just has more territory. Let's see what other... otherwise, White could play this way, yeah. And black would live on the side. And you can see that black's... all of this is reducing black's territory on the right side. So
yeah.
In any case, all these variations... I put a lot of variations, it turns out, into the SDF file. So look for sub-variations if you're into that kind of thing. I think I annotated all of them, but they're all good for White. They're all giving White a lead in territory. So getting back to the game, black extends but covers here. White covers once, and then White pushes here. And this is a direct threat against black. So black, okay, black plays once here. That's okay. At this point, black had to protect at A. But as I've been saying, that would just be a territorial win for White.
It's just too slow, yeah.
It's close enough that I would go on playing probably if I was black. But this is sort of just it's allowing White to go for the kill. So White cuts here. Now black played the wedge here. If black plays any other move, it's just going to be a 1 move difference for in which White wins. Like this one would be a 1 move win for White. Black has 3 liberties left, and White has 4 liberties. Wow. So it's a 1 move difference.
Yep.
So black has to wedge, and White takes this timing to play the connection. So it's a very exact timing. For instance, if White starts with this move, White's going to be filling his own liberty.
Yeah. That's right.
Just to show you another variation of the black mistake. If black, it might be a bit better for black to play this way and this way. In this case, it's 4 liberties for White, 4 liberties for black, but it's White's turn.
Right.
So that's not working for black even if black leaves the common liberty open, which is better technique. It's better technique, but it still doesn't work. So black wedges. That's the only move. White connects now. So connecting now means that White has forced black to play this move first, which is turning out to be a bad move. Well, black had no choice, but it's a move that allows White to capture and get an extra liberty there.
And here comes the Ko.
Yeah, so there's this Ko in the end. White fills black's liberty. Black has 3 liberties left. If White connects, White has only 2 liberties. So this is, again, it's a step call. So locally, oh yeah, White did fill. White fills here. White will have to cannot connect the Ko even if White is winning the Ko. White's next local move would be to fill a liberty here. So it's a one step Ko that favors black. But this is where an area that we thought was black's territory. So it's sort of one-sided in that way. Black pushes through here. And peeps. You know what? Black didn't even take the Ko. This is really weird.
I had a question about this move because I didn't really understand it.
There's no reason for black to play 2 Ko threats in a row. But you know, AlphaGo does this all the time. And the explanation that I have decided on is that it doesn't make any difference to the end result of the game.
Okay.
And so as far as AlphaGo is concerned, a human would say this is a mistake, but as far as AlphaGo is concerned, it doesn't make any difference. Like humans are much more careful of their co-threats. They don't like to lose co-threats.
Yeah.
AlphaGo loses co-threats every time it gets into a ko. Because most of the codes like are the final code that's worth say 1 point, and it knows who's going to win the ko anyway, and the side that's going to win the ko throws away just enough ko threats so that it still can win the ko. It
Must be
doesn't make
nice.
any, provided it has the whole thing calculated. It doesn't make any difference. And then the side that's losing the ko anyway is free to throw away as many ko threats as it wants because it's losing the ko anyway. It
Right.
doesn't make any difference.
All right.
And so then the winning side is going to throw away more too. So you see a lot of that was happening a lot with Master, and this is also, I think it's technically also a later version of Master as far as I understand. So it's the same program. It doesn't care. So that's it. But the other interesting thing that is happening here is that White doesn't answer this move directly, because the moment Black cuts at this point, the moment Black cuts here, White's going to start a ko, and it's going to be even more serious for Black. So White's going to play here and start a ko, and Black doesn't have enough ko threats to win the ko, partly because White now plays here, and this creates a lot of ko threats against the Black group on the lower side.
Right.
And so there's no way Black's going to win the ko now. So we're having this weird fight where White is not connecting the weak point here. White is just not playing that move, and Black is not going to cut it either because it's not going to work for Black, just because the fact the ko is still continuing. And so we have to, and finally White starts the direct ko hit.
Right.
And White has ko threats all over the place. This is a valid ko threat because not only does it connect the White stones, it threatens to break into the Black territory on the right. So it's a valid ko threat. White uses another valid ko threat. Any ko threat is good enough for White, but now White just finishes the ko threat. Right. By the way, White didn't have any ko threats against the Black group in the lower right anymore because Black added this stone. So this group is okay for the time.
Right.
So Black played here. Still more reading to do. It never ends, does it?
No.
So Black started a semi here, in which in this semi you might be surprised to find that this dead group here, it's going to make a 1 move difference in the semi and give White a win. So the presence of those stones. To go back, go back to what Black should have done locally. The correct local move is to play here. White has to capture here, and Black can live. But of course, the game is just a lost game for. I think I put an amount for White to win in the SGF file in the notation, but it's just an easy win for White.
Wow.
So Black goes for the fight to capture. White plays here and captures. Black. This is in effect, it's filling a liberty, and then White plays here and here, and you probably question what's going to happen. We're coming close to the end of the game.
Yeah, so, it's these dead groups that were alive, and the alive groups are dead. I mean, it's
still confusing, isn't it?
It's so confusing.
So this is where Black resigned. So I go back 2 moves, and I'm going to make a variation to show what could happen from here on. So Black's going to fill a liberty. Obviously, Black is winning the semi.
Obviously.
But actually, already, Black is going to have trouble filling White's liberty. So let's just go through it. And here, you see Black, just because White got that extra forcing move here with this stone. Black has no way to fill a liberty at this point.
He's short.
He's short. And still Black cannot fill a liberty. I took it to them. So White wins by 1 move.
I missed that last.
And it all happened with this marked stone here. So to go back to the game, it was this move. Getting this move in, it actually increased White's liberties. Although you it's not really clear the way the game proceeds. Just getting this honey on the first line increased White's liberties. And so White wins the semi.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is the winning position. In the game, they didn't play that out.
No, of course not.
Otherwise, like if Black plays something like, let's just make one more variation. If Black plays something like this, again, we have a position where playing this move on the first line, we saw something similar to this early in the game. This is a position where this exchange, when it's played early enough, it fills the vital Black liberty.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's the 5 cutting stones that'll be falling off.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it was a crazy game. It was I had to do a lot of digging to figure out what some of those moves meant. And you might recall I didn't really give you a full explanation for some of these moves on the outside in the lower right, but I did my best.
No, you did fabulously as always. I have no complaints, and I'm sure our viewers will not either. It was, I mean, first of all, it's just really nice to be back. I have to say, I've been missing these the last couple of months, so I'm sure that our viewers feel the same way. But I'd forgotten just how amazing, and I did get a chance to do some playing even among all the stuff that I was doing, and I got to tell you, Michael, and I was going to ask you about this as well. I mean, what I've been finding in my own games is that I am getting myself in so much trouble because I see these moves.
Yeah.
But
If you imitate this, you're going to get into trouble. Definitely.
I can't back them up, and I get into them, and it's just it's fun. I will say it is fun, and like you, it sort of rejuvenated my interest in the game. Well, listen, this has been wonderful. It's a great return. We should be back on schedule. Before we wrap up, I do want to give another huge thanks to all our AGA members. We really appreciate you. Make videos like this possible. Just a reminder, if you'd like to support this content, a lot of you have asked in the comments how you can do so. It's real easy. Just consider joining the American Go Association. usgo.org supports this content and a lot of other wonderful things that the AGA does. Thanks so much to you. Thanks so much to you, Michael. And we will see you all next week.